What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, and today I am super glad to be able to finally bring a budget deck to Vanguard OverDress. Like, we haven't really covered any budget decks previously. I feel like that was like a mainstay of our channel previously. In V, there was always these like budget kind of alternatives, but I finally think with set 2 we have some decent alternatives now in certain decks, and obviously this is no different for Prison. So Prison is, I feel like, probably the best top 2 budget deck that you can kind of put together at the moment right now. There's also like a maiden budget deck I'm going to probably be putting forward. I'm also going to kind of show you the Zorga alternative. I don't know that I really call it a budget deck. It just happens that a lot of the support is really cheap, so I find that we can use that. But this deck really is decent. This is like, I know the mainline Prison deck is better, don't get me wrong, but you can still get around a lot of different decks with this. You're still putting that consistent pressure almost the entire game with her inherent abilities and just being able to zap your opponent's field. Like, I'm a Narukami main. I feel like this is more Narukami than like a lot of the different Dragon Empire clans at the moment, so, or the decks that you can build out, sorry, archetypes. But yeah, I really like that ability, and I think just the Prison in general is good enough to kind of carry you through. And if you showed up to, like, you know, locals with this, I really think you would have like a decent chance at least getting top 4, you know, maybe at a 16 and below person tournament probably. So I really enjoy this deck, and you can put it together honestly for like less than 30 bucks. I really do suggest, if you are looking to get into the game and trying to just upgrade your trial deck a bit, this is a good way to do that. So in this video I'm going to go over the deck profile, obviously the ride line, and then just like a test hand at the end, so stay tuned for that. I'll go over some like different matchup kind of quirks as well, so stay tuned and let's hop right in. Alright, and before we begin, I just wanted to quickly mention that if you are new to the channel and do enjoy this content, I ask that maybe you do leave a like on the video, possibly subscribe to the channel. Also, we do have a TCG Player affiliate link down below if you are planning on purchasing any of these cards. We do ask that you go through that link, just helps the channel, absolutely no cost to you. And with all of that out of the way, let's hop right into the ride line. So starting right at the bottom, again, from your trial deck, just pull these right out. This is the grade 0. Nothing really crazy here. If you go second, you are able to draw a card when rode upon. Then next up, we are going to go into the Aurora Battle Princess Kainate, how do you say this? Kainate Blue? This guy's skill, when placed on Vanguard Circle, search your deck for up to 1 prison card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Its second skill, we don't really use it for the second skill, but when it is placed on Rearguard Circle, if one or more of your opponent's cards are in your prison, get to Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and draw a card. So not horrible for the card draw, but overall we don't really use it in that. This really just goes and gets that prison. Also, go fetch the prison before you draw if you want second. I've seen it before where people draw first and they've actually drawn the prison, and we just run 1 in the deck, so kind of allows you to deck thin a little bit and just avoid that unfortunate situation. Next up, obviously, we're going to go with Aurora Battle Princess Reset Pink. So its skill, auto when it's placed on Vanguard Circle, if your opponent chooses a card and then puts it into the prison. So just that little bit of hand thinning so early in the game really kind of says like, hey, don't rush me down, otherwise your hand is going to be super thin for my grade 3 turn. So really like this card. This is a decent ride overall. And its second skill, if one or more continues on Rearguard Circle, if one or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison, this guy gets an additional 2k. Again, we don't really run this in the main deck, just really for the ride line. And of course, no surprise here, rip it right from your trial deck. This is going to be Aurora Battle Princess Seraph Snow. So very good card. Its continuous Vanguard skill is on your turn. If one or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison, this guy gets an additional 10k, and if 3 or more are imprisoned, it gets an additional drive. So card economy is really good in this deck. Getting that additional drive can put a pressure and just a little bit more card draw into your hand, which is really nice. And its second skill, act on Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle once per turn. You get to Counterblast 1, choose one of your opponent or 2 of your opponent's rearguards, and imprison them in your prison. So again, just being able to pop all of your opponent's cards various different ways puts a lot of pressure on them from hand and just resources in general to get them out if they wanted to. So I really like this card, and again, I think this is like a really solid budget lineup overall. So let's hop right into the main deck and then get started. Alright, transitioning right over, we're going to be looking at the prison card. So obviously this is the prison card. This is like the mainstay of the deck. We're just running 1 just because it is searchable, and there's no way to really damage it out before you search it. So its skill, cost, rest 1 of your units, and then play this card. When this card is put into the order zone, we get to Soul Charge 3, and basically this kind of traps all your opponent's cards in here. This just goes into that set order zone, just stays there. This guy's skill, basically, when it's in the order zone, if units are in the prison, you have to Soul Blast 1, and then your opponent has to Soul Blast 1, and if they do, they get 1 card out. If they counterblast, they get 2 cards out. So again, just making your opponent pay to get their cards back, which really sucks. Good for us, sucks for them. So yeah, solid card overall. And again, I think the shiny versions like pennies I just included. I think I pulled 1 or something, so that is totally optional. That comes straight from the trial deck if you want to go absolute base rarity. Also, persona riding is really big. We're going to start with the grade 3s here, so we still want to just max out on Seraph Snow. Buffing your units in this deck is important because not a lot in this deck really gives extra power. I think that some of the mainline triple rares do, but we don't really have the budget, obviously, in this deck to do that. It's just too expensive, too recommended for a budget deck. So I think just maxing this out, ensuring that you get that persona ride, an extra draw. You know, you're basically getting a draw for the turn, a draw off of the persona ride, and then 3 drive checks. It's 5 cards in your hand, so you can go from like a broke hand to like a woke hand really quick. I guess that's a stupid way to put it, but you can have a nice fleshed out hand really nicely, really easily with this. Next up, I really like this card. This is like a solid budget alternative for the kind of budget deck, obviously. This is going to be Aurora Battle Princess Mel Horizon. I really like the art on it too. Orange, I guess, is like my favorite color, so it really pops. It's nice. This guy's skill, auto on rearguard circle. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, counterblast one, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, imprison it in your prison, and this guy gets an additional 5k until the end of turn. So 5k is actually pretty big because if you're not boosting this and you're swinging at your Vanguard, opponent's Vanguard, you know, they're 13k or whatever, like they have to guard with more than just a 5k or like an intercept, so that is pretty nice. And obviously it's hard for them to intercept in this deck because you're probably popping their front row and robbing them of the ability to do that, so that 5k is a little bit more impactful than you think. And then yeah, just counterblast one to pop a card, like that's nice. Like overall, if you're finding, you know, you can't do it with some of your other cards, this guy just when it attacks, boom, do it, no big deal. You can set your opponent, your Vanguard up nicely, so just supreme kind of control on their fields. Moving into the grade 2s, I'm going to start off with the order card actually. So this is going to be 4 of, oh god, hates this, Moment of Capture, Aurora Battle Princess 24-hour coverage. So really awesome card. This is like a huge, I'm so glad they made this a common because this is really big. This guy's skill is play this with Soul Blast 1. Its skill, if your opponent's hand has 4 or more cards, they choose a card from their hand and imprison it in your prison. Then, if 3 or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison, choose one of your units and it gets an additional 5k until the end of turn. So again, kind of explain why that 5k is big. Really nice to hit those nice numbers overall. Also, just, I mean, in the early game and the late game, this is a good card. Like, boom, pop this down, get rid of that card. That can be like really the game winner or, you know, the game breaker for your opponent. I've actually had it where this card was played and I had just enough to guard everything. I kind of calculated the turn before. Boom, my opponent played this card and it robbed me of something, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, now I just do not have enough shield. So really awesome card. Definitely need this in the deck if we're going to play budget. Even if we play the mainline one, I think that you still run this at maybe a 2 or 3, I think, somewhere around there. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but definitely a solid card seeing plays in all different versions of this deck. And then next up, just to pad the deck a little bit more, actually was lucky enough to pull the full art version of this, but this is a common out of the Dbt-02 set. This is going to be Explosive Melting Heart. It's skill, play this with Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your opponent's attacking units. It gets minus 5k until the end of turn for each of your opponent's cards prisoned in your prison. So this is kind of a conditional card because if your opponent keeps on like paying the cost to get stuff out of your prison, like this won't be that impactful, which is pretty much why I'm playing it at just a 1 of. Also, the general train of thought for myself, at least, if I am playing it just at a 1 of, it A, has to be tutored, meaning you have the ability to go search it out of the deck and get it to your hand, like our prison, or B, it's for like the late game. In certain instances, it could be good. Like you don't really need it, but it could be very beneficial, like at a 1 of. So I think that's really the mindset when you're including something in your deck at a 1 of. I used to just think, oh, you run 1 of, you run none of, but I kind of adapted, kind of changed my outlook on that. Next up, going into the grade 2s, again, very impactful card here. A lot of these cards, like I said, like this is an awesome budget deck. You can get a lot for a whole little in this deck. So this is Aurora Battle Princess Daryl Violet. Its skill, when this card is put on your Guardian Circle, if 1 or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your units, and it cannot be hit by a grade 2 or lower attack till the end of that battle. So this is acting as a perfect guard. This is absolutely insane. So you could either intercept, because intercepting goes onto Guardian Circle, or you can play this from hand. I suggest playing it from hand most of the time, unless like you desperately need a body on board, you know, for a Persona Ride turn, whatever it is. This basically says no to Verena. This says no to Orphist if they're swinging with the grade 2s. This says no to Leonard for, you know, obviously one of the attacks. This is just like such a big card. Barrow Magnus too. You don't really play grade 3s, so I feel like the only deck this is not good against is Bastion, and to an extent, I think Bruce does have that Marjorie, whatever. She is a grade 3, but for the most part, I mean, this is such a good card. I think at a 2 of, it's good enough. Like you might want to bump it up by 1, I'd say max, but running at 4 gets a little clunky overall. I think that this is great at a 2 of, just leave it there. Really impactful card, can surprise your opponent and just boom, like 1 card from hand, perfect guard. You know, you guarded a 40k column of their Verena Urger, whatever the case is, so very nice. Moving right along, this is kind of a controversial card. I don't know if I would typically include this in a budget deck, but since everything else is so cheap, I think that I can kind of get away with putting these guys in it. I'm going to put 4 of Aurora Battle Princess Spark Limon. So this guy's skill, auto on rearguard circle. When this unit attack hits, choose up to 2 unit cards from your opponent's drop and imprison them in your prison. So at the time of recording, this card is somewhere around that $3 to $4 mark. I know, if you know people at your locals have trade binders, look for this. People aren't really going to juice this card. This isn't seeing a ton of play in the main deck, maybe a 1 or 2 of in the the real build, but this is just big for us because this is like free, costless things into our prison. And again, if they're not having units on board, we need a way to still get cards in our prison, and this really enables us to do it because when it hits, you get 2 cards from their drop and then put it into your prison. That's like pretty big. It doesn't gain power, which sucks. That's like the big drawback to this card, but overall, what it does for us, I think, is worth it, and I think it is worth the price. If you don't want to play this, you could play some more of the grade 1 from the ride line, maybe some of the grade 2, maybe bump this guy up. I think this card's like $1 or something. Some other options as well out there, but overall, I think that it's worth the splurge. And like I said, this is still played a little bit in the main build of this if you wanted to build into it. Moving right along into our last grade 2, I'm choosing to run this at a 1 of. For particular matchups, it can be very good. This is Aurora Battle Princess Barrette Canary. So its skill, auto on when this card is placed on rearguard circle, choose one of your opponent's cards in your prison and put it into their drop. So again, this is one of those cards where I think like certain matchups it's great, it can really help you out. Certain matchups it's not going to do much. Like if you're playing against Verena and you pop like a Trickstar out of there, like that's their whole kind of engine starter. That's very impactful. If you're playing against Bastion and you want to get a you want to make sure they can't get like an Alden out and go that whole skill off. I'm not sure if that's actually from hand. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that one. But there are certain cards that it's nice to drop it out. I think at a 1 of, in the particular times that this comes up late game when your prison is stacked and they're trying to still recur resources from it, like I think this could be very good. I've had that where I've popped that Trickstar, I've really stopped some of their plays and denied like an extra 2 attacks from them. So I think it is decent, including it just as a 1 of, just a common, very cheap. Moving into the grade 1s then, I'm choosing to run 3 of this guy. You can run this at 4, you can totally do that. I think 3 is enough. I like to really see this on my opening plays, just to rest as a unit for my prison cost. And this guy's skill, this is Bizarre Beast, Bagu Motor, I think that's how to say it. Act on rearguard circle. If one of or less of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison, rest this unit, choose a card from your opponent's drop, and imprison it in your prison. So it does have that 8k body if you don't use its skill, still a decent booster. In early game, it does help too, just to make sure that you have stuff in your prison. You don't mind resting it, whatever, early too. So I think this is a decent card. You can bump it to 4, like I said. I think this is also seeing play in the main deck as well. So again, just a really nice card to kind of transition over there as well. So I really do enjoy that. Very decent card. Again, I'm so glad there's so many like good impactful cards they included at that rare slot, at that common slot. I think that guy was a rare, yeah. Next up, I really like this card too. This is going to be Aurora Battle Princess Rudend Azalea. Azalea. Yeah, Azalea. Its skill during continues on rearguard circle during the battle. This unit is boosted. 2 or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison. Gets an additional 5k. So in set 1 we had our 10k boosters. In set 2 we're essentially kind of moving into like that 13k booster kind of territory. I think that you make really nice numbers overall. Obviously your Vanguard being 23k boosted with this guy over here. That's 36k. Just an awkward number to kind of block when they're persona riding. It could be 46k. So really decent. Also our rear guards in this deck in general don't gain a ton of power, so if you want to put this behind your rear guards, like really nice to just give them that little extra bump, maybe get them over the hump, so to speak. So if your opponent, let's say, hits a trigger and they become a 23k on their Vanguard swing, you tried to boost a grade 2, it was just 10k. Even if you hit a trigger, put it on your rear guard, it wouldn't have mattered. You're still not getting over it. This kind of allows us to get over it. Even if you don't hit a trigger and they do, you essentially made your 10k body into a 23k body base boosting with this. So I feel like this is a decent card. Again, play with the ratios as you see fit. If you want to see more of her, totally go for it. This is just a common, again, very cheap card. I think that it is very impactful. I wish there was room for it in the main build, but I just don't think there really is. And then lastly, for like the main kind of tech cards, I think I'm playing just 1 of these. Interesting card. It's really hard for people to kind of resource deny this deck because you don't really use a ton, but having the other support grade 3 counterblast as well as your Vanguard, sometimes they only leave you open with one counterblast. Later in the game, if you have 5 or more, that's the only time this is really going to happen. It's hard to have 5 cards in your prison in general, but you know, sometimes it does happen where you just have one open. You want to just really just start taking more and more from their field, really robbing them, doing what this deck does best. I think that this can come in handy just for that counter charge or that soul charge 3 if you're completely out of soul and you find that you need that. So definitely check this out. Try it. If you don't like it, drop it totally altogether. Maybe add another booster in. That's definitely a solid option, but I'm trying it just at that one of. Moving right along then, so we are going to go into our very last grade 1. I happen to have 2 of the main PGs kind of lying around. Again, if you can't afford those, totally fine. Just go for the regular trial deck PGs. The difference is that this always has to take another card and discard it from your hand to perfect guard. Whereas if you have just, just 2 cards or less in your hand, you basically can drop that. I just had extras. If you don't want to purchase those, totally understand. Just a heads up too, that they are reprinting set 1, so these might become a little bit cheaper. If you can, those are the better PGs, but if not, totally go with the trial deck ones, no big deal. Perfect guards are needed in this game, especially in this format. Alright, and that wraps it up for the main deck. We are actually going to move then into the trigger lineup. Again, being a budget deck, I didn't want to include all 4 of these, but I think it's definitely worth to spring for at least 2. So I am running 2 of the front triggers in here. Again, our units, we struggle with power, and just hitting a front really feels nice in this deck. Just gets you over that metaphorical hump, whatever, as soon as they hit a trigger. You know, your whole turn's not like turned to crap necessarily. I think that the shield value that it provides is definitely worth it too, and if you could afford 2 more, go for it. If you can't afford any, totally fine. I would take the fronts out and just include 4 draw triggers. Right now I'm doing a 2-2 split, trying to keep it budget while still, you know, exposing you to what it could be. Feel out what you like. Like, I think with the amount of draw power this deck has, the draws adding on top of it, like, I think your hand size is going to be healthy all the time. Like, you have the ability to guard out and just have your solid, consistent plays over and over. But try both, see what you like. If you can afford, you know, those, I think they're like $1 each. For somewhere around there, maybe might be a little bit more now. I'm not sure off the top of my head for the front triggers, but the 20k guard really does help in some situations. We're gonna run 7 crits in here again, just 4 from the trial deck, 3 from the set 1. Shouldn't be too much overall. 4 of the heals from the trial deck, and since this is a budget deck, I cannot recommend the over trigger for Brandt, but if you do have the funds for it, go for it. That is definitely, like, in my opinion, the best over trigger in the game, but this guy is solid too. Obviously, when you drive check, for all the newer players, when you drive check this, it does get bound out, you don't take a damage, you draw a card, and this guy's effect specifically is that you give 100 million to an additional unit. So normally you give 100 million to just one, but this one over here, the Cray Elemental one, allows you to do 2 of them. So very nice overall. I think that this deck really has potential. Again, if you're new to the format, you don't want to just splurge 100%. If you want a deck that leads you into something that you can build a little bit later on, if you decide this is a game you like, this is a great option. Like, I'm having a ton of fun. People are so shocked sometimes when I play this. They're like, wait, that wasn't the real build or whatever. Like, no, this is budget prison, and you can do a whole lot with it. So let's hop into a test hand. I'll show you guys how the deck kind of works out, and just some general matchup ideas as I go along. So yeah, let's go into that. Alright, awesome. Let's hop right into a test hand. Let me just get my Vanguard out. Again, always keep your Vanguard face down, unless, you know, you'd set like casual, your opponent knows what you're playing or whatever. In tournament, always keep it face down until it's time to flip it over. Don't give them any idea of what you're playing. You know, it gives them time to think about the matchup, possibly, and some different stuff that they can can kind of get away with. But overall, like I said, this deck is super, super fun. I think that you can throw a lot of people off guard with it. This is probably the best budget deck, at least the one that I find that I have the most fun with, just because my main Vanguard, like, is still doing what she does the whole time, and it feels good. Like, this triple drive feels really nice. Imprisoning stuff, just making sure that, you know, their field is kind of clear of pesky units, making them pay a cost to kind of get them back. Like, that inherently is so good. Like, if I played a Magnolia budget comparatively, like, that skill just doesn't feel as good. You have to Persona ride every single turn, but like this one, you have a lot of different options, and really shows. I think this is definitely, like I said, the best budget deck you can possibly get in the format. Again, you know, builds might differ necessarily, but I think overall, I don't think anybody would really argue this probably is the best. I'm gonna put one of these back. You know what? I'm gonna put 4 back. You know what? Let's keep one of him. Yeah, let's keep one of him. Put these 3 back, just so I can discard 1 to ride, and I can still have it. So 1, 2, 3. All right, not terrible, not too bad. This is actually a decent hand now. So we got rid of our triggers. Again, if you're new, if you're watching this because, you know, I'm new, I want to play budget, like, you typically want to put triggers back if you know that your opponent's going to rush you down. Yeah, you might want to keep like a trigger or two in hand. It's not the worst thing in the world, but overall, that's very much my playstyle. I just put triggers back, but you know, it could bite you in the tuchus if you don't have an adequate amount of guard, as we don't really have here. So let's proceed over here. We're going to stand and draw for our turn. We're going to go first, and you do draw, unlike other TCGs, first in this game. So yeah, I think I'm going to just discard one of these over here. We just really need one for the game. We're going to ride into this. I'm going to then use its skill when placed on Vanguard Circle, search my deck for up to one prison card, reveal it, and then is it put it in our hand and shuffle my deck. So let's see. Let's go here. It's important to put it into your hand first and not just like straight up play it, because if you play it without playing another unit, that means that you have to rest your Vanguard, and if you're going second, you don't want to do that. But since I am going first, I'm just going to rest my Vanguard. It doesn't really matter. I can kind of conserve my hand and not show my opponent what I have. So I'm going to put it into my hand. I'm also going to play it. I'm going to rest my Vanguard, because that is a unit still, and I'm going to soul charge 3. I'm going to soul charge 1, of course, 2, and 3. 2 heals out of the deck. Feels bad, man. I'm going to put that into my soul right there, and we're going to proceed to our opponent's turn. We're going to take 1 damage for their turn. Boom. I trigger. Perfect. So it shuts off most of the other damage. Sorry about the glare over here. We are then going to stand and draw. We're going to discard a card. What do I want to discard? Since we don't have a lot in our prison at the moment, it's kind of a late game card. I'm going to discard this guy, the extra shield. I'm going to ride into my grade 2 unit. So one of our opponent's cards are going to be imprisoned then. So let's just say, boom, that's going to be a proxy. Boom, they got prisoned. We are then going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to play this card. I'm also going to rest it. So we have 1 or less. Let's say they guarded something, whatever. You know, obviously they had to discard something from their hand. So we're going to, boom, put another card. We're already at 2 cards in the prison. So starting off pretty strong. I'm not going to go into anything else aggressive here. I don't think I really need to at the moment. I only have 4 cards in hand, so I want to give the illusion at least that I have a little bit more shield than I might, but it's alright. We're just going to keep this conservative and swing. So we're going to go 10k at our opponent. Boom. Critical trigger. Very nice. Put that on our opponent. Sets us up nice. Pass it over to our opponent. Let's take 2 damage. 1. Let's say 2. They hit a crit. Alright, cool. We are then going to stand and draw for turn. Since I have 2 of her, yeah, I'm going to discard 1 of her. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to go into Seraph now. Nice. Really love the artwork on her too. We are going to place down 1 and, no, let's go 1 and 2 here. I think that's what I want to do. I'm going to counterblast 1. I'm going to get another 2 units from my opponent. Let's go another 2, 1, 2. So I have 4 cards right now in the prison. Again, this is all just hypothetical. I'm not really saying that they're calling cards out of the prison at this point, which they very well could be. I'm going to conserve this card in my hand just because it is a perfect guard, essentially. So let's open up. We don't really need to swing with our other people first. We're going to swing with the Aurora Battle Princess, and we are going to get that triple drive, even if they're on grade 2. Like, we still get that triple drive. This is a 23k triple drive. 1, 2, 3. Alright, no triggers. Very unfortunate, but it is what it is. Not the worst situation in the world. I think we'll definitely survive next turn. I have 1 PG in hand. Yeah, I got a little bit of shield plus that PG. Yeah, let's do that. So we are next going to swing with our 13k, making it an 18k by counterblasting 1, putting a card into our opponent's prison. Boom, over here. Got a stacked prison now. We are then going to swing here. So we're going to swing. Let's say they guard this. Just, you know, it's only an 18k. They didn't want to get another 2 cards in their prison. We're going to pass it over to them. Let's take 1 damage to open. All right. And now we got to start guarding. Let's guard 1 attack. You know, let's soul blast 1 over here. There we go. Guarded another. Sorry, I just tapped the mic. I don't know if it got really loud or something. And, yeah, let's say we guarded that then. All right, perfect. Guarded 3 attacks. Stand and draw. Let's see, do we get, no, we don't get a Battle Princess, unfortunately, but not terrible overall. We're going to play this card, actually, so we're going to Soul Blast 1. Again, just whittle down our opponent's hand. We're going to do that, and they get another card in our prison, and we have a lot of cards in our prison right now, so I'm going to give the extra 5k, actually, no, over here, because if they do hit a trigger, yeah, it doesn't really matter either way. You can give it to either column. They're pretty much going to hit for the same number. Oh, yeah, whoops, Counterblast 1. I'm also going to counterblast 1 for her, so I'm just going to do that now so I don't have to go back and forth, but we're going to triple drive over here. 1, 2, 3. Wow, we hit a heal trigger, just 1 trigger. This whole game we hit, no, we did hit a crit trigger earlier on. Yeah, let's put that here. There we go. Alright, and then, like I said, I already counterblasted for her, so this is 18k. Put the heal trigger over here, let's say. This is going to be, instead of 18, it's going to be 28. Alright, and then boom, pass it over to our opponent. And that's really the course of the game, you know, just making sure that you can guard out, and I feel like this card really helps us do that. Again, might want to bump it up to 3 if you have it. that is the idea of the game. Just imprison, really annoy your opponent, make sure that their field is destroyed at all times. I feel like this is like a really solid addition to make sure you can pretty much like guarantee to pick one off if it's on the field. This guy is great too, just pressuring in the drop, and Seraph inherently is like a 23k base body, you know, could be bumped up to 33k with that Persona ride. Just her triple drive, her overall inherent pressure is just really, really nice. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any comments down below. If you did enjoy the content, I ask that maybe you do hit that like button, possibly subscribe to the channel. We have a ton more deck content coming out. We have other fights as well, some discussion videos too. Go check it out on the channel. If you're interested in V format, we will be having a couple of those too once the V collection drops. I'm kind of putting that on hold just until the grade 3 triggers kind of come out, because if I release it, you know, they're going to have to be revised like a month later. So just kind of holding off. A lot of premium stuff coming too. So thank you guys so much. This is Alex from Teen Generations signing out.